I did it. Okay, Peppa, I don't want you jumping into my lap. You can gently climb into my lap, but I don't want you jumping in it. Fudge nuggets, that hurts. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay. Okay, I think I'm okay. All right, Fufu, come on, Fufu. Gentle now, you can do it. Okay, right here. Stop right there. All right, let's talk about this diagnostic angiogram procedure. It was very interesting. Interesting is the word I'd use to describe it. My check-in time at the hospital was 7:30 a.m. My procedure was scheduled for 9:30 a.m. I had to stop eating food by 12 o'clock the night before. I had dinner, I think around 6, and then I didn't eat anything after that. I had a pretty big dinner, so I was actually really full for the rest of the evening, and they said I could drink water the morning of the procedure. So I went to bed, didn't eat anything after 6:30-ish, drank some water in the morning, went to the hospital, checked in. Check-in was super easy. There was a front desk at the hospital, and I just told them who I was, answered a few questions, and then they sent me upstairs to the IRU unit, which my mom figured out meant something that I can't remember at this current moment in time. So we go upstairs. There's some double doors that lead us into the IRU. There's a red phone that we picked up just outside the doors, and they said, all right, we're letting you in. Come in. There's another little front desk there. I tell them who I am, and then they take me to my own little hospital room, room 7. And yeah, we get there. It's a cute, it's a hospital room, but it's a cute little room, and it was really nice that I was able to have my own room. I was there for several hours, but it's nice that I had that recovery in my own little area. They give me a gown, tell me to change it to the gown, take everything off underneath. I had to do a urine test. For women, they have to make sure you aren't pregnant before this type of procedure, so that's what the urine test was for. The results came back very fast. Negative. The results were negative, in case that wasn't obvious. And then it was just chilling in the hospital room for a few hours. While I was changing in the bathroom, the neurosurgeon came and told my mom that they might be able to get me in a few minutes early, not a whole lot early, but things were trucking along okay, so they were thinking that they'd probably be able to get me in a little early. And then the neurosurgeon did come in and talk to me a bit as well before the procedure, made sure I didn't have any questions, which I didn't really. I think the only questions I had was how long until I can go in a pool or hot tub, how long until I can use the sauna, how long until exercise. And he was fairly confident that a lot of those I could do really quickly. I think things like pool and hot tub, I'm gonna wait a couple weeks, at least 2 weeks, because I don't want to get the incision site infected. Hi, Pepfoot. Hi. Then the neurosurgeon left, and I was just there chilling out for an hour and a half. They put my IV in, and then when it was time for me to go back, the bed I was on rolls, so they just rolled me out the double doors, rolled me down one flight. I can't remember if we took an elevator or if we took a ramp. There was a ramp that led down to the floor below. And I legit, for the life of me, cannot remember. I remember how we got there on the way back. I don't remember how we got there on the way down. I also don't know when they give me my, mild sedatives to keep me calm. I was really calm throughout all of this. That was, a kind of a big thing that I thought was very interesting. I thought for sure at some point I would get nervous. I did not get nervous really at all. I was not really nervous at all. I wasn't nervous the day before. I wasn't nervous the morning of. I wasn't nervous checking in. I wasn't nervous changing into my gown. It was very interesting. I wasn't nervous. I was way more nervous for my wisdom tooth surgery than I was for this. Maybe because my wisdom tooth surgery, I was going under general anesthesia, and I had never been under general anesthesia before, so that was kind of scary. I'm like, what if I don't wake up? That was freaking me out. And this, I was like, I'm going to be conscious, which made me nervous at first. I'm like, I'm going to be conscious for this? That doesn't sound fun. But as I did a lot of research on this procedure, I was like, no big deal. I watched a lot of videos of other people going through this procedure, and that helped ease my nerves a lot. So yeah, I just wasn't nervous. I also have low cortisol. Cortisol's the stress hormone, so I don't know. I feel like that probably plays a little bit into it. If I have naturally low cortisol, I'm not going to get stressed as much. I don't know. So they wheel me down to the floor below and into the operating unit, I guess you'd say. And they pulled me aside before they took me into the room. They put a little hairnet on. They introduced me to my nurse that would be with me the whole time during the procedure part. Made sure I was doing okay. Again, I don't know at what point they gave me my mild sedatives. I really don't. I think I potentially know when, but I don't think they had given them to me at this point. I was still pretty with it. I was calm, but I was pretty with it. I thought for sure they'd tell me when they were going to give me the sedatives, but that took a couple minutes just hanging out outside the operating room, and then they wheeled me into the operating room. The operating room was really big. It was really big. Lots of equipment and tech all over the walls and such. The coolest thing, okay, I work in IT at a university, so I think tech is pretty cool. The coolest thing was this giant, like, hanging TV screen, essentially. And, like, I knew that's, like, where the x-ray was going to show. It's on this big contraption, like, these tracks. It's on this big tracks on the ceiling of the room, so they can move that TV literally wherever they want. So that was super cool. It's like, wow, that's so cool. And, yeah, so they roll my bed up next to the, like, operating cot. Raise the bed so I'm level with the cot, and then I kind of scoochy on over, and then they start prepping me for the procedure. They put some pads on my chest. Oh, foo-foo. Okay, foo-foo. Right here. They put some pads on my chest and side, like, to monitor, like, my vitals and such. At this point, I think must have been when they gave me the mild sedatives, because as they were prepping me for all this, I started to get a little dizzy. Like, I was looking up at the x-ray machine above my head, and there was like fuzziness around the edges. It was like moving. I knew it wasn't moving, but it was like it was moving. I was getting a little dizzy, so I was like, is this what the sedatives are? But I was still very with it. Just everything looked like it was moving. That must have been when they gave me the sedatives. You know, they had to, like, undress me a little bit. I'm a pretty, like, modest person, so I was like, I'm not a huge fan of this, but I know it's their job, so it's fine. So, like, you know, the biggest thing is the catheter goes through the groin. So obviously they had to reveal that and prep that area for the incision. They put some sort of, I don't know what it was, like an ointment or liquid or something on the area, I'm sure, to sterilize it. It stained that whole area blue. Like, it's like my leg and groin area is very blue. So whatever that was, it stained it blue. Yeah, so they prepped that area for the incision. And, you know, we're chatting here and there. My whole team was really nice. It was really interesting just to, like, obviously this is like a well-oiled machine. Everyone in that room has a purpose, has a job. And so it was very interesting. Oh, they had to tape my head in place. They said, sometimes people doze off during this. I'm like, I'm really tired, so maybe I will doze off. But, so they have to tape your head to make sure it stays steady. Yeah, and then my neurosurgeon came in, and we were about ready to, like, get this party rolling. So they had to they put some numbing cream. Maybe that's what the blue was. They put some numbing cream on the incision area first, and then they injected the, like, numbing agent, which that sucked. That definitely was painful. But once the area was fully numb, I didn't feel the incision, and I didn't feel the insertion of the catheter. Like, I think there's maybe, I must have had, the sedatives must have kicked in at this point, because I don't remember feeling at all them putting the catheter in. I'm sure I would have felt something. And yeah, I didn't feel anything traveling up my body. Like, they're traveling the stuff up through my blood vessels to my brain. I didn't feel any of that, which I'm glad. That would have been super creepy, I think, if I could feel something traveling through my blood vessels. Ew, that would have been gross. I could feel the contrast dye, though. The contrast dye, when they insert the contrast dye, it's very warm, like almost hot, not like painful, but it's very, very, very warm. So I could feel that, and I did know that contrast dye sometimes makes it feel like you're urinating yourself. And yeah, I did feel like I was peeing, but I knew I wasn't. I very much knew I wasn't peeing, but it had that similar sensation. It was very weird. There was a few points where I did feel like actual liquid dripping down my leg, and I'm like, that's not coming from me. That's coming from whatever they're, like, using down there. I do wonder if at one point there was blood dripping down my leg. I do wonder about that, and I'll talk about that more later. The procedure is, like, going at that point. They insert the contrast dye, and then the x-ray machine, like, it started, like, kind of, like, down my body, and then I could see the screen from the corner of my eye, so I could like see the x-ray moving up my body, so I could see my bones as the x-ray went up my body, and then it locked in on my head, and then my neurosurgeon would say, okay, Jenna, don't breathe, don't move, don't swallow. So I would go, hold my breath and wait. And I also did it with my eyes closed because I didn't even want to be tempted to blink, so I would do it with my eyes closed, breathe in, hold my breath, don't breathe, don't move, don't swallow. Picture would take, and he's like, okay, you can go ahead and breathe. And then I'd open my eyes, and I couldn't move my head, so I would just use my eyes to look at the screen, and I could see, like, my blood vessels, like, pop up, like, the image would load, and it's like, there's all my blood vessels in my brain, so that was actually really cool. That part was, like, cool. I was like, oh, look, those are all my there's all my blood vessels, so that was really fascinating. They took a ton of pictures. I didn't think to keep count until they were already, like, almost halfway done, but they took a lot of pictures, so there was a lot of, all right, Jenna, go ahead and hold your breath, don't breathe, don't move, don't swallow. And they had to inject the contrast liquid multiple times. Like, I could feel, like, sensations of warmth, like, a couple different times throughout this procedure, this process. There was one point where I was like, oh, did you just insert more dye? Because the bottom left half of my mouth got really warm and a little metallic. Just the bottom left half of my mouth. Like, that was very bizarre. Like, I could taste metallic taste just in this portion. And he's like, yes, I did. I was like, oh, yeah, I can feel it, like, in my mouth. He's like, yeah, that'll happen. So I was expecting, one of the videos I watched in preparation for this was the gal who was getting the angiogram done. She said when they inserted the contrast dye, she could see, like, fireworks or, like, lightning in her eyes, and that was the blood vessels, like, being lit up with the contrast dye. I didn't get any of that sensation. I was a little bummed. I was like, that would have been really cool. But yeah, I didn't get any fireworks show behind my eyelids. But I did get that warm sensation and a little bit of metallic in my mouth. Then, now I cannot, for the life of me, remember the term they used. They told me during the procedure, and I, like, stuck in my brain. I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember this because that was interesting what just happened. But that I must have had the mild sedatives because I remembered it clearly in the moment, but as soon as I left that room, could not remember what that term was. But they said, all right, Jenna, we're going to do one more scan, and you're going to feel a lot of pressure in the left side of your head. Like, that is normal. Don't worry, but you're going to feel a lot of pressure. And they used a term for what they were going to do, and I can't remember. And I tried Googling it. I'll probably try to Google some more. If I remember it, it's going to be on the screen right now. But essentially, they were gonna this last image they were gonna do. Maybe it was like a 3D image or something because the X-ray machine like did a whooshoo, like 360, 180 or whatever, like around my head. And I feel like everyone left the room, or at least stepped back. I'm not sure. It seemed like everyone stepped back for this last image. Like even my neurosurgeon was down at my leg this entire time, I think, to insert more contrast dye, get the photos, and to, like, obviously be there for me if anything went wrong. But I do think for this last one, it did seem like everyone stepped back. So they said, all right, Jenna, don't breathe, don't move, don't swallow. I do my thing. My eyes are closed. I take my breath in and held it. And my God, the pressure in the left side of my head was almost unbearable. It was crazy. I don't even know how to describe this pressure. It was like, I don't know, like a balloon filling the space, and it was so painful. It was really painful. I legit almost passed out. Like, I think I did black out for a few seconds. Like, I just was like, oh my God, this is terrible. I don't like this. But I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I couldn't swallow. And it didn't last that long, but I swear I lost, like, awareness for a few seconds. And it just was like, and it was very, very warm. It was building. And then I hear, all right, Jenny, you can breathe. And it was still several seconds before I could because the pressure was insane. And they come in, and at that point, I'm, like, really pretty out of it. And they're, like, talking to me, and I think they're making sure, like, Jenna, are you okay? I was like, I don't even know if I responded. And I think eventually when I finally found my voice, I said, that was a lot of pressure. That really hurt. And I think they're like, yeah, like, that part, like, it's pretty intense. Oh, but that was nothing compared to getting the catheter out. That fucking sucked. All right. So that was the last scan. I was pretty dazed because of the pressure in my head. And then they were like, all right, Jenna, we're going to take the catheter out. You're going to feel a lot of like pinching and pressure. I don't remember what they told me to expect because I was still pretty dazed. Damn, this part sucks. And like I can't see what they're doing, so I don't know like what part of the process, but essentially I think, oh, hi Fufu. Okay, you need to stop jumping in my lap, please. Okay, I know you love me. So I don't know. I'm assuming they pull the catheter out and they used a star. Oh, where's my phone? Okay, I looked this up. They used a star close to close it. They told me this after when I was in the recovery room, and then I Googled that this morning to figure out what the heck a star close was. And I'll have pictures of it on the screen. But a star close device is a type of vascular closure device used to close the femoral artery after procedures like cardiac catheterization. So a catheter. It works by deploying a small clip extrinsically, so outside the artery, to seal the puncture site rather than relying on sutures or plugs inside the vessel. This method allows for rapid ambulation and hematosis. So essentially allows for the blood to like stop bleeding and for it to like clot correctly. The clip is delivered through a sheath that is inserted into the artery. Once positioned correctly, a mechanism is engaged to deploy the clip, which cinches the artery closed. Oh yeah, that's what fucking hurts so fucking bad. So they deploy that, and oh my god, it was maybe the most painful thing. I haven't experienced a lot of pain in my life, and I have a fairly high pain tolerance. That really fucking sucked. That was so fucking painful. It was, I don't even know how to describe the pain because I was so dazed from the pain prior. This pain was worse than the pain prior. But it was really intense, really sharp. I mean, let me read that description again. Tell me what you think that feels like. A clip is delivered through a sheath that is inserted into the artery. Once positioned correctly, a mechanism is engaged to deploy the clip which cinches the artery closed. So that must have been what hurt so fucking bad. It literally, it felt like something was squeezing the artery, like super like pinchy, painful. I like literally started crying. Like tears were just streaming out of my eyes. I'm like, that sucked so bad. And so they close it. They're like, Jenna, are you all right? And I couldn't respond. I was in so much pain. And I was like stunned because the pain was crazy. Is it still recording? I think so. The pain was just almost intolerable. I mean, it pretty much was intolerable. Yeah. So then, then my neurosurgeon has to then put pressure on the groin to make sure like the bleeding stops, and I don't know, that was maybe 5-10 minutes, and that hurt too, because he had to press really fucking hard, and so I'm like, man, this sucks, this is really painful. But they told me him and the nurses, and you're on my mic. Him and the nurses and everyone said that I was doing really well the whole time, and like I do feel like I handled it like a champ, honestly. Like I said, I wasn't nervous or anxious at all. Really at all. I was pretty chill. And part of that, I believe, is because I just put all of my faith in these medical professionals. Like, he is a neurosurgeon. He is a expert in what he does. He's been doing it for like, oh gosh, I don't know, at least 10 years, because I know he coiled my cousin 10 years ago. I want to say he's probably been doing it like 20 years. He's been doing it a long time. And if he can't do just like the simple procedure of just getting images of the brain, like how is he supposed to be a neurosurgeon? How is he supposed to operate on the brain? So I was like, okay, he's an expert in what he does. Everyone in this room is more than qualified to do what they do. And I fully believe and trust in the like technical medical advances of our society. I may not believe in our healthcare system like in America. There's a lot of flaws about that, but I do believe in experts in their field, and I believe in the advances of technology. So I think that's what really got me through this procedure with very little anxiety was like, no, I believe in technology and I believe in these experts. This is like a routine thing for them. This is going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. So, and like, obviously there's always risk for anything like this. Like, there's a 1% chance risk that I would get a blood clot in a not desired place, and then they'd have to actually operate to remove the blood clot. 1% chance, though, right? Like, that's pretty, it's not non-existent, but it's pretty small. So again, wasn't super worried about that, about complications. And if there was going to be complications, I, again, trusted my team to take care of me. So even if there was a pretty big complication, I trusted that they would provide the care I needed to make sure I was okay. Yeah, so once the bleeding stops enough for the neurosurgeon to release pressure, they start undoing all of the things that they had set up for the procedure. And then they told me they were very specific that they did not want me to move. They did not want me to lift my head. They didn't want me to move my leg. I just needed to lay flat. And they were going to transfer me from the operating table back to my bed. And they were like, don't help. Stay perfectly still. Do not help. Do not move. And essentially they just picked up the sheet and just like scooted me over. You know, they raised the bed so it was completely level with the operating table. And it was just a quick scoot. And I was like, whoa, like I was like a little, like it was a really weird sensation because I think I was like still dazed from the pain and probably a little drugged. And so like I was like, oh, that felt like a little roller coaster. Like, yeah, but not as much fun. Okay, I'm really proud of this little bit that I did. I was like, I am not normally funny. So I thought this was pretty funny. So they were like, scoot me over. I was like, oh, that felt like a roller coaster. And they're like, yeah, but it's not as fun as a roller coaster. I'm like, no, it's not. But hey, I still get a picture at the end. And everyone in that room laughed, okay? Nothing felt greater than making a room full of, like, nurses and medical tech laugh. Because I'm getting all of these x-rays, so I'm getting pictures at the end of my roller coaster. I thought that was a great joke. I realized I had to explain the joke after. That's because I'm talking to a camera, and I don't know if y'all got the joke or not. Hopefully y'all got the joke. All right, then they wheel me out of the operating room, up a ramp, back to the IRU, and into my hospital bed, where I then recover. And so I had to lay on my back completely flat for 2 hours. That sucked. I hate being still. The first hour was fine. The second hour was rough. I was super uncomfortable. I was in pain. I started to get a really bad headache, so they did give me some Tylenol for my headache. It did not really help the pain in my incision site area, and my low back started really aching. My low back was in so much pain, but there wasn't a whole lot they could do. I was supposed to lay in a very specific position, so they really couldn't do a whole lot. And I was just watching my iPad. My mom was out eating lunch, and as soon as I was able to sit up, so once I was able to sit up, they made me get up and walk around. That was super duper 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 painful. Oh, before that, they did have to check my incision site every 15 minutes, check my blood pressure every 15 minutes. So, there was the nurse coming in and out to check all that to make sure everything was golden. Okay, so it was time for me to stand. It was very painful. The nurse walked alongside me as I walked to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. He said, don't lock it in case you need me to come in for any reason. There's this little tab in the bathroom that you can pull if you need assistance. Go to the bathroom. God, it hurt sitting. It hurt to sit so bad. Oh my God. And then, okay, this is a little TMI. But when I wiped, there was blood. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm not on my period. What's happening? And so I went out. I told the nurse, I was like, there was blood when I wiped. He's like, oh yeah, that's pretty normal. That's probably left over from the procedure. So that's, earlier I said, I think some blood dripped down my leg when they put in they cut the incision. They made the incision, I think, because, a video I watched of someone going through this procedure, a lot of blood squirts out when they make the initial incision. Obviously, and when they insert the tube or whatever, lots of blood squirts everywhere. So I'm assuming when they made the incision, some of that blood dripped down my leg. And so when I wiped, there was blood. I was like, oh my God, what's happening? Otherwise, I was fine. Walked back to my room, chilled in my room. They gave me a sandwich and some chips and some grapes and some water. And so I just ate my food. That sandwich was the best sandwich I'd ever had. Because remember, I haven't eaten since 6 p.m. the night before. It is now like, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. So I'm starving. I'm so hungry. So that was a great sandwich. A roast beef sandwich. Delicious. And yeah, I watched some more stuff on my iPad. I was in a lot of pain, though. I just wasn't comfy. I was not comfy. I was able to sit up more, but it wasn't. Yeah, I was still in pain. They had me walk a couple more times and then change into my clothes. They checked the doctor came in and told me that diagnosis. Duh. Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't mention the diagnosis part, obviously. So while I was still laying flat, so like maybe like 20 minutes after the procedure, my neurosurgeon comes in, tells me, yes, you do have an aneurysm. That spot the MRA found is indeed an aneurysm. It's actually a little smaller than what the MRA showed. So the MRA predicted that was 2.5 millimeters by 2.5 millimeters by like 1.5 millimeters. So the doctor, wrote on the little whiteboard that it's 1.9 millimeters by 1.9 millimeters by 1.6 millimeters. So a little bit smaller. And he's not super worried about it because it's so small. It's in a fairly low risk area, but I asked him. So this is my little theory. I recently found out that I have low cortisol levels, really low cortisol levels. And that is either due to adrenal insufficiency, which would be related to the adrenal glands not producing enough cortisol, or it's related to secondary adrenal insufficiency or something. I can't remember exactly what it's called. And that is related to the pituitary gland not creating enough cortisol. Before my angiogram, I was looking at the location of where my suspected aneurysm was. And I was like, that seems like it's actually really close to the pituitary gland. I looked up, I knew that the aneurysm was in the ICA. I don't remember what that stands for. I'll have it on screen. The ICA. And I Googled, is the ICA located near the pituitary gland? And the internet told me, yes, it's very close. And I said, if you have an aneurysm in your ICA, could that affect your pituitary gland? And the internet said, yes, that very much could affect the blood flow to your pituitary gland, making it so it doesn't produce enough cortisol. So I was like, okay, that's an interesting theory. I don't know if my neurosurgeon thinks it's as interesting as I do, but my naturopath thought it was an interesting theory, and my chiropractor thought it was an interesting theory, and they were like, that's actually a pretty solid theory. But I said to my neurosurgeon, I was like, is my aneurysm located near my pituitary gland? Because we were talking about how I have low cortisol levels, and I'm like, I have this weird theory. I'm like, is my aneurysm located near my pituitary gland? And he like looked like shocked and confused. He's like, kind of probably like, how the heck did you know that? And he's like, yeah, it is. I was like, so I'm like, so like, could that potentially be? He doesn't seem to think that my aneurysm is affecting my pituitary gland, maybe because it's so small, but I still think it's a possibility. I really do. So it'll be interesting when I see an endocrinologist to talk about, like, is this a possibility? So anyways, yes, he says there is an aneurysm. He's not super worried about it because it's small and it is a low risk, but he knows that I have 3 women in my genetic line that have had ruptured aneurysms. He knows that I am at a higher risk because of that. So he said, what we can do is we can either monitor it and see. You can get MRAs once a year and see if it grows, and we can reassess if it does grow. Or if you're really worried about it, we can put a stent in. In my last video, I said, I don't know as much about stents, so now I've got to do research on stents. Because that seems to be the course of action he's thinking of taking if we want to do something about it sooner rather than later. But I don't have to make a decision anytime soon. I'm at such a low risk. He's not worried about it. And I have a follow-up meeting with him in a couple weeks over the phone to like talk about all this stuff to make sure my healing's gone well, and then to talk about what we want to do moving forward. So I found out then and there my aneurysm is real. The doctors that tried to gaslight me into thinking I was at a low risk can go suck. Sorry. I'm super frustrated with them that they tried to gaslight me into thinking that I'm at a low... I have a whole video about that. If you haven't watched that, definitely go check it out. I have a lot of righteous anger in that one. The line that keeps coming back to me is, patient should be reassured that she is at a low risk of aneurysm because she doesn't have any first-degree relatives. They were super duper wrong. But, yeah. Where was I at in my recovery part? So I'm eating eating, walking a couple times. Walking sucks for sure. And then once everything's confirmed that I'm okay, that everything's healing properly down there, that I can walk, that kind of stuff, the nurse asked me if I want to walk down, if I want to be a wheelchair. I'm like, yeah, probably a wheelchair. I don't feel like walking right now. So he puts me in a wheelchair, and he's like, I'll take you downstairs. And I was like, cool, we're going to stop at Starbucks, because there's a Starbucks literally right outside the elevator, which I'm sure they do on purpose. Starbucks right outside the elevator of the hospital. So, we go down to the first floor. He parks me at a table, and my mom goes in to order my drink, and, I say goodbye to the nurse. Nurse was great. I loved my nurse. He was so nice. Adam was his name, I believe. And then I had another nurse that helped out when Adam, I think, was on a break. I don't think I ever learned his name, or if I did, I super duper forgot it. But they were both super great nurses. Loved them both. They were so nice, so helpful. And then, my mom gets me my drink. She wheels me out, and then my mom's friend picks us up, and yeah, it's about an hour and a half drive home, and I just reclined super far in the car and just laid there and chatted with my mom and family friend, and get home, and then spend the evening in the recliner at home, ate some sushi and some ramen, watched some Schitt's Creek. Just kind of spent the evening just dinking around, not doing a whole lot. And then went to bed. Bedtime was sucky at first, but eventually I did sleep. So, yeah, that's my story, y'all. I probably look super out of it. I woke up at like 5:30, 5:40, which sucks. That's super annoying. Maybe I'll nap today. My mom's going to be here soon to make me some food, and she got some groceries for me. Peppa, please don't jump up on my lap on that side. So that's my story. That's my brain aneurysm diagnosis story. And I'm like doing super okay. Honestly, like we've got it figured out. It's small, it's at a low risk, and we can plan for it. It's so much better to have this figured out now instead of dealing with a ruptured aneurysm that we didn't even know existed, right? Am I right? So I'm feeling great about everything. I'm not super stressed about it. And I've known about this since March. Hi, Fufu. I've known about this since March, so I've had a lot of time to process it. And even before getting it diagnosed for sure, I've known for 10 years that it was a possibility. Like, I knew 10 years ago that this is something that runs in my genetic line. So I've had a lot of time to process it, especially the months that it took to just get the MRA. Because when I turned 30, I started pursuing this. So it took pretty much a full year. Because I turned 30 in March of last year. Started the process, hit a lot of roadblocks. And we're now in June. It took like pretty much over a year to get it for sure diagnosed, brain aneurysm. I've had a lot of time to process this diagnosis. So yeah, I'm feeling great about it. And I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to figure it out right now here on this YouTube video. But yeah, that's my story, y'all. I hope you had a good time. I certainly didn't. No, I'm doing fine, y'all. I'm doing fine. If you like this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you want to see more updates from me, I don't know how many more brain aneurysm updates I'm going to give because I don't know what I'm going to do. If I monitor it, the brain aneurysm updates will be probably pretty boring. If I get a stint, then I'll have to document that whole journey of getting a stint. But yeah, if you want to see more like lifestyle vlogs and creative crafty vlogs and writing vlogs, I know I have a wide variety of niches that I'm dipping my toes in. It's a thing. It's a thing that I probably shouldn't do, but I'm doing it. So yeah, consider subscribing. Thank you. Thank you if you subscribed. I appreciate it. I really do. I really appreciate subscribes. I appreciate comments. I appreciate likes. All right. This is a long ass video. I'm so sorry. This video is going to be absurdly long. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next video, I hope you all have a lovely day. And yeah, with that, goodbye. Gotta get up now. I don't like moving. I'm up. It's good. We're up. Okay. I'm so glad I left my camera on the tripod so I didn't have to set it up today.